truth of the matter is, China didn't just emerge overnight. They they were smart, intelligent people. They recognized very early that they couldn't match America. In It doesn't even matter what indices you're looking at, economically, militarily, even educationally, in the 70s, 80s. And so they opted for a playbook. And so they designed a playbook. And the idea really was to be able to give the Chinese people an opportunity to craft a vision of the future that nobody will see coming. And the only way they can effectively craft that was to put together some of the brightest minds around the world. And that's what they did. So in 1985, they had these 2 week cruise where they got some of the best economic thinkers on the planet. And then, in 2 weeks, they brought these intelligentsia from the Chinese side and this pool of smart economic thinkers from around the Western world, and together, in 2 weeks, they were able to craft what has now become the document. The Chinese people learn how to centralize strategy. Okay, what that means is they, on one hand, really, they brought together the best elements in communism and the best element in capitalism to create a controlled market economy. All right? On the political side of things, they did the same thing again, brought the best side of communism and brought the best side of democracy, and created something that looks like a democracy, but it's not quite a democracy. But but it's the best thing that they can come with closest to democracy. And so they were able to invent what works for them. They adapted the system into the Chinese culture and principle. And guess what? Between 1985 and the next 10 years, the Chinese people were able to move hundreds of millions of Chinese men and women out of poverty into wealth. You see, no nation, none. I don't know of anyone. I have studied a couple of literature around the wealth of nations and how nations rise and fall, and you realize there is no accidental or a nation that became great accidentally. All right, like you say, no accidental heroes. Any nation that grew because they were able to plot very carefully the principles around which they must build their people. All right, educationally, think about what happened with education. People did not invent school 500 years ago because they wanted to, have certificates. No, the world was running on a geographical wealth, right? And the West didn't have much of that. So they decided to change the pursuit strategy. They didn't want to be the ones running after you. So you have all the gold, the chromium, the californium, the nickel, the oil, the rubber, the cobalt, and so on and so forth. But they turned that around and began to build wealth where they had it in the mind. So they created something we now know as the anthropological wealth.
Yes, sir.
Wealth in people. And that was where school came in. And so now they felt, if I could, you have the oil, but I'll have the engineers that can drill it. You have the cocoa, but I can have the manufacturing plant that can give us chocolate. You have the cotton. I can be the textile plant that give us a cloth. All right. So by changing the strategy, I make you the supplier of raw material, and I make myself the guy who adds value to the raw material to give you end product. And because the end product is actually where the wealth is. So right now they turned the table around and then took the position of Africa. Africa used to be one of the wealthiest places in the world when the way we measure wealth was what? Geographical wealth, wealth in the ground. But now wealth is now being measured differently, wealth in your people. It's intentional. Nobody ever dominated any niche anywhere in the world accidentally. You needed to plan it, you needed to organize strategy, and then you needed to deploy resources in a very smart and strategic way to deliver to you the kind of results that you really, really wanted. So China did that. And so today they're churning millions of young people out of the educational system to dominate spaces that they have used diplomacy to create around the world, particularly in Africa. So we could sit here and wish that things were different. I hope that things will improve. But hope, ladies and gentlemen, is not a strategy. We need to sit down as young people and ask yourself in the next 20 years, what am I going to do with these opportunities? Important question, right?
Yes, sir.
Next 20 years, what's going to be my playbook? You know, don't let people tell you that thing they tell young people all the time. Hey guys, you're too young, you're too inexperienced, you don't have it coming. But you know, some of the greatest innovations have been carried out by people who didn't know enough of what's impossible so that they were able to do it. Sometimes the knowledge is the problem. You get it? That thing you call experience have held a lot of people down because they know all the reasons why it's not going to work. But a young person doesn't know enough of the reasons why it's not going to work. That is why they actually make it work. That's an irony, isn't it? And so you're supposed to go right on. Design your playbook exactly the same way you play with your book. All right? Daydream on it. Ask yourself in 10 years, what would I love to be? Allow yourself to go crazy for once. All right, it's okay. You are Spiderman, you are Iron Man, you are what else again? Superman, Batman, and whatever. You just get all of these incredible characters together and ask yourself, if these were real life characters, how would they impact industry? What kind of superpowers will they bring to transform the African landscape? If they will have to translate the superpower into ones and zeros, how will I use that superpower to transform the IT communication infrastructure in Africa and position this continent?
Yes,
If I have to deploy the technologies of Iron Man, how would I use it to create a knob in the heart of the system that will help me create Africa's largest technological corridor? If I have to harness the power of Superman, what will I do with shooting the eyes or with the speed that can run past a flying bullet or leap beyond tall buildings? What would I do with all of that? Ask yourself and look for the real life, intellectual, academic, economic equivalent of the superpower. Make it your playbook.
Wow.
And then we're in business. Can we do business now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.